Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the first ever episode of MSS Live. My name is Malvin Malai Harrison. I am one of your co-hosts.
Hello, hello. I am Wilmercel Castillo. I am the second co-host of this wonderful podcast.
And I am Dayton Matsushima. I am your last and third co-host for MSS Live.
Awesome. Well, we're pretty excited for all the things that we're going to be talking about today. A quick overview. We're going to be featuring some updates from all the different cultural centers that fall underneath MSS, as well as our main topic, which is going to cover virtual learning and how to battle Zoom fatigue. But first off, let's take a trip around the MSS fourth floor, virtual, if you will, starting off with the Chicanx Latinx Student Center. And actually, we're excited to introduce our featured guest, Jocelyn Gallardo. She is the current interim retention counselor for the Chicanx Latinx Student Center. Welcome, Jocelyn. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Malvin, and thank you to the other two co-hosts for having me. My name is Jocelyn Gallardo, and as Malvin said, I am the current interim retention counselor for the Chicanx Latinx Student Center here at WSU.
Great. So we understand that this month is very, very special. You want to let our listeners know about what's going on?
Yes, of course. So as you all may know, it is Latin Heritage Month, and although things are looking a little different this year, we are still celebrating virtually until October 15th. Our theme this year is Our Voice, Nuestro Poder, which translates to Our Voice, Our Power. Our workshops and events are going to be revolving around different ways you can use your voice to empower not only yourself, but your community. And yeah.
Okay, awesome. And where can our listeners find out some more information about your workshops and events?
So if you guys are interested, you can find our workshops and events on our Instagram at WSU Chicanx Latinx, again, at WSU Chicanx Latinx, and our Facebook page, which is Chicanx Latinx Student Center WSU. Again, our Facebook page is Chicanx Latinx Student Center WSU. I look forward to seeing you guys all there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. We appreciate you coming on and sharing that information with the students.
Of course, thank you, Malvin, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
All right. Thank you, Jocelyn. So next up, we have updates from the African American Student Center. Dayton, you want to let our listeners know about what's going on?
Yeah, sure. So the African American Student Center will be having 2 workshops coming up. And so the first workshop will be How Can I Better Manage My Time with Classes in Life? This will be facilitated by the Academic Success and Career Center. This will be happening on September 29th, Tuesday at 4 p.m. on Zoom. The next workshop that will be held is A Better Way to Write a Resume. This will also be facilitated by the Academic Success and Career Center and will be hosted by the AA Student Center. This event will be held on September 30th, Wednesday, 2020 at 4 p.m. on Zoom.
So Dayton, where can our listeners find out more information about these events?
So you can find more information about the events about the African American Student Center on their Instagram at AASC_WSU. And that is AA students, that is that is AASC_WSU.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the Asian American and Pacific Islander Student Center has a pretty exciting event going on, and it's lasting an entire month. And to my understanding, this is not the first time that they're doing this, but it is called the 4-Week Hustle. And that actually started on September 21st, and it's going to be ending on October 6th. So it's going to be ending soon. They're going to be featuring all sorts of prizes, such as headphones, selfie sticks, WSU face masks, passion planners, and a secret grand prize. Interesting. So everyone, if you want to go to the WSU Asian American and Pacific Islander Student Center at WSUAAPISC to find out more information about how you can win points and potentially win some awesome prizes.
The Native American Student Center will be hosting a very generous and also be providing delicious barbecue chicken for their event called First Friday Feed. It's scheduled to be October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Before you can attend this event, you must email Joelle your WSU attestation form before picking up the food, just to make sure you're healthy and being able to show no symptoms of COVID-19, of course. Again, this is a First Friday Feed, October 2nd, 11 a.m. through 1 p.m. You can find more information on the Native American Student Center Instagram page at WSU Native Programs on Instagram. Segueing into GSORC, they're hosting an ally training today, as a matter of fact. So if it's not 12 p.m., please feel free to turn off our podcast and attend it. And then once that's done and you get the information that GSORC is trying to provide, then come back whenever you get the chance. So again, that training is going to be September 28th, today, 12 p.m. through 1 p.m. For any updates regarding GSORC, you can look them up on Instagram at just GSORC.
The next thing we would like to talk about is the TMP program. So on September 29th, they will be hosting 2 workshops. The first workshop will be Conversations with Boeing. This will be preparing students for applying for internships. The first part of the workshop will be happening at 12 p.m. And the next workshop they'll be having is How My College Experience and TMP Helped Me Get to Where I Am Today. This will be happening at 5 p.m. And for more information about these 2 workshops, you can definitely check them out at tmp.wsu. So definitely check those events out.
Right on. And we understand that this is a lot of information. MSS does provide a weekly newsletter that you can find on our social media and on our website at mss.wsu.edu. And this will be a weekly updated newsletter, so you can tune in and find reliable information about events that are going on around MSS and around WSU. So definitely check that out. Hello, welcome back to MSS Live. My name is Malvin Malai Harrison, and I'm joined here by our co-host for the show, Wilmer Castillo.
Hello, everyone. Hope y'all are doing good and staying safe and healthy, of course.
For today, we're excited to introduce our first guest to help us talk about the experience of virtual learning, and as well as some best practices that we can implement to help battle the effects of virtual learning and Zoom fatigue. So our first guest for today has over 15 years of experience as a higher education professional in the area of student affairs at Washington State University. Throughout the years, he has worked with countless students in student leadership development and as an educator around the areas of social justice and equity. He received his Doctor of Philosophy with a focus in American Studies from Washington State University. He is the Director of Multicultural Student Services and coordinator of the Smart Start program. And in no way does this introduction fully encompass all of his attributes and incredible work he's done for first-generation multicultural students at WSU and for the MSS community as a whole. Everyone, we're excited to introduce our first guest, Dr. Stephen Bischoff.
Thank you for the introduction. Appreciate you too, and getting this podcast rolling.
Thank you, Steve.
Again, thank you, Steve, for coming out. Well, we understand that you're an extremely busy person and probably have a lot going on, especially working virtually. But I kind of want to segue into how this virtual learning has affected not only students, but staff as well. From your personal experience, how has this transition to completely online affected you?
I think that just along with students, I mean, we had to pivot quickly. There's so many adjectives, things like pivot. I think we've had to think on our feet. Everybody's had to move quickly. For our team with MSS and we're part of community equity and social justice with student affairs, that pillar, and we've been just trying to think how we can transition the best that we can. So one of the pieces is that we meet pretty regularly, and with our various teams, we started in the pandemic meeting actually 3 times a week. I was meeting with leadership in our community equity social justice area pillar, and we were meeting 3 times a week to stay up on how quickly things were changing. And they were busy meetings, and still, even to this day, with our MSS team and our various centers and programs, we are now to twice a week, and we fill up those twice a week meetings, 1 hour each meeting, pretty swiftly. And I think that we've had to really focus on our clear communication. I mean, it's easy to sit here and tell you that, but it's been challenging to see how are we going to make things happen given changing environment, the restrictions, things that are maybe we can do, but do we want to do? And still sticking with our goal, especially with our centers that are affiliated with MSS. How are we going to serve students? And the nice thing is that we actually have a lot of things in place that were online. I mean, many of our student mentors, credit to them, they were doing online outreach for years. It's just a component of their in-person interactions as well. But still, we had to switch quickly. We finished last spring doing everything virtual, as did everyone. Our graduation was our biggest event by far, is always graduation, but switching that to virtual, we had to do hiring for student positions, mentor positions. We had prepped for virtual formats. So this is just some of the tip of the iceberg. We've been meeting with a lot of different groups, and even with these groups, it can be very tough. You can get caught just not sure where to move because you're used to things. And you mentioned I've been working in student affairs for a long time, and 17 years working in student affairs, and in doing this, you hope to get better. And not that you can't flip the script and change it up and do something completely different, collaborates. There's new stuff every year, but to throw everything into like this blender, like, okay, everything that you've perfected or you feel that you've really honed in on how you fine-tuned something, now you've got to do it and do it with like one hand tied behind your back, or you have to do it in a different way. And so I would say that those are some things that just the tip of the iceberg of how we've had to really shift and thinking, how can we reach students, and especially the students that need help the most. And that can be in a lot of different ways. There's not a single thing that students might have a challenge with.
Definitely agree with all the points you touched base on. I hear constantly the word about being able to adapt and all the challenges various peers that I've talked to. You mentioned how the challenges that students face. Personally, what do you think are like some elements to virtual learning that have affected first year / first gen students?
Well, specifically for virtual learning is just having the technology, and so we had on campus, and I don't know if they're still available as of right now, but we had hotspots. We had some students at the end of spring. I got word that some students were driving to certain parking lots to do their virtual, to get Wi-Fi, and wasn't perfect, and we even did a little bit of that with WSU, but it's given the restrictions, we were trying to make it happen the best that we can. And I think that, yeah, I'm not saying it was great. We've had challenges, but for virtual learning, just having the technology. Aside from that, many students, and this is all works into what's going on in their personal life. It goes hand in hand. Many of our students, if not most of our students, went home last spring. Many students stayed home as well for this fall. But just being in an environment, being at home, do you have quality internet? Can you afford quality internet? Who else is going to need internet? If you're using it with siblings, family, and then you start thinking of the hardware. What if your computer breaks down? Then what? So the financial burden that goes along with everything. Food. So virtual. That might be something that people might not think of, but being virtual, that's an extra person that's maybe at home. And so how are you going to be able to afford with family? Are you having to work a second job, or work a job? Maybe sometimes our students are working multiple side jobs. So I think all of these things play into the virtual challenge for students. Students have prepped for an in-person, and they did not prep for a virtual, and they've had to shift their lives with the pandemic, and it's a lot more challenging than many of us might realize.
Can't imagine the complete shift and 360 of many students, especially the first gen students, have to adjust to, and all the struggles that they're going through, especially right now. When you mentioned the hotspots and all the resources available, I really appreciate WSU for getting those out there and really looking out for those students who need those. But since you touched base on that, do you have any advice for these students who are still trying to adjust to this distance learning, Steve?
I think it one is reaching out, and that seems very ambiguous. Reach out. Well, if you don't know where to reach out, the dean of students is always a good place to start. However, our office also can help, and sometimes it will be referral. Our goal is to help directly as much as we can. However, it might be like, hey, you need to talk to this person, and we can help connect. But I think reaching out. For instance, we had a student that we, because of the air quality here in Pullman and the West Coast, we had operations shut down on campus. Well, what about going to the food pantry? Food pantries on campus. Well, thankfully, the dean of students office was still open, even in the air quality was horrible, but we were able to coordinate and try to get students to check in before the 5 o'clock closing, prepare for the weekend, and maybe even for the following week. And this was a couple of students had inquired about that. So that's like an example. If we can't hear, it's like we can't do this work, and we really need to hear. I can't pass a student casually in the hallway and find out, when I ask how they're doing, that, hey, by the way, can I get help with XYZ? So it's tough. I know that students are going to try to manage the best they can, but let us try to see what we can do, because the goal would be to have students focus as much as possible on their classes.
In regards to virtual learning at home, a lot of us finding that we're doing a lot of our work in various different places. Maybe it might be like the living room or the bedroom. What are your thoughts on how the workspace affects a student's learning experience?
I always believe environment is huge. Even before, the pandemic, I try to talk to students that are struggling with their time on how they build in things into their day. When are they most effective? If that might be a byproduct, that is a byproduct right now, is that, we're finding different schedules for many students, many staff, for how things work. But, I being in touch with yourself, knowing how you work best. Some things are out of your control, but if you have your day and you can be flexible, trying to see, okay, if you have to be in class, I understand, but when do you get stuff done the best? And I always talk to students that like to stay up late, and nothing's wrong with staying up late, but for many students and staff and just people in general, the late night hours are often not the best prime time to get your best work and your best attention. So things like, for me, I can tell you that usually it's mid-morning, roughly in that 10 a.m. range. I had breakfast usually at that already, some coffee. It's daytime, my energy's up. So that's probably the best time you're going to get the best work in terms of my engagement. And so I hope that many students are getting in touch with themselves, knowing like, okay, well, how do I work best? Having siblings is a tough one, because I've seen many students that they've got their siblings in the same room as them or next door. And it's tough because, but you need to get your stuff done. So if that means that you have to create a little space, then that's what I would encourage, if you have that ability. Even here, having an office chair, I'm very fortunate. Not everybody has an office chair. Some are working on their beds. They're sitting, some are just making their dinner table their space, right? So if anything, try to set yourself up for where you think you will do your best work, given everything. Where will you do your best work? Maybe you need to set your phone elsewhere. Really trying to focus in class. I know it's very easy to tune out in class, even more so, because but if you really are going to stay in tune, do what you can. I say this for students that miss class as well. I don't know of any student that has done worse by coming to class. So just getting to class one, but then paying attention. So if you're going to be there, you might as well pay attention. I mean, you might be doing it for some attendance, but just trying to set up your schedule around how you work best. And I know it sounds very cheesy, but I believe strongly, like having good natural light, getting outside. It's going to be winter pretty soon. So, how do you balance, you're getting your sunlight, maybe getting outside isn't as much of an option. Trying to have things ready, have your water. I think as much as you can to limit distractions. I know that for many it's not possible, but just trying to find your space. Maybe it's working at a Starbucks, or if you have a Starbucks open, or finding a coffee shop that's open that you can do stuff. That's a luxury, I know, for many. But if you're at home, try to carve out your space, at least a space where you can get what you need done. And try to be flexible with yourself. I think this is a time when we've all had to be very flexible. So if you are changing up your sleep schedule or work schedule because of everything going on, well then, rethink how you do your classes, rethink how you're going to get it done within the constraints of when they're due, assignments, studying, etc. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, but I believe strongly in environment and trying to set the stage for your best work.
Definitely agree with that, Steve. You called me out of being a night owl, so I really had to adjust to that, especially right now. Really trying to get not essentially ahead of my work, but being on top of it. I've been a little bit more strict on myself with keeping a schedule and following that. I usually try not to do homework in my room anymore because I really get distracted because I see a bunch of stuff that I have out. So most of the time, I'll catch myself doing homework on my couch or on the kitchen table, just trying to have as little distractions as possible. This is also a reason why I came to Pullman rather than stay back home in California. Love my family, but they're very loud and well-spoken individuals, so it becomes really hard to concentrate. And I definitely agree. Finding that space for you and that environment that'll help you excel in your learning is really essential. So the coffee shops that you mentioned is really a good place. Maybe even outside if some students aren't uh, available to. I feel like getting enough sun is really good, and just having a fresh perspective while you're outside will really help that out too. Just because you get to see what's around, but still at the same time trying to focus in, even with it's being easy to tune out the information on Zoom.
That's a good point that you said also, Wilmer, about just like if you can get outside. I mean, how often do you get to have a class outside? I mean, that's a positive, and changing for some changing it up each time can be very helpful. I think that's cognitive dissonance, right? You just change things up. You might pay a little bit more attention, but mixing it up. But you still want to focus on comfortability and how you're going to be able to focus on the work you're doing. So, but yeah, I like those ideas a lot.
That was my 2 cents as well. Hopefully, I know everyone's different, and probably some people do way better at night. I can say I do a lot of my work really good at night. I don't know why. It's probably just the added stress that I get out of it, just to really hammer out the assignments that I have. But in the morning, I feel really sluggish. But trying to adjust to that right now. Really trying to fix old habits. Speaking of a bunch of Zoom, there's been this ongoing phenomenon called Zoom fatigue, and this is like a little simple definition. It's just essentially being worn out from being on various Zoom meetings or classes for extended period of like time. What is like your opinion on that? Like, what kind of best practices are there to combat that effect, Steve?
There's a lot of research going on, I'll tell you that much, about Zoom fatigue. A lot of different people looking at how it affects. We know it's a real thing, so it's just saying it was real. When we first started the pandemic, you're like, we'd mention it, but we know it's real. I think that if you are able to schedule, if you have to do group work, for instance, give yourself some breaks. There's if you're on your schedule, I get it. But we started doing this more with our staff meetings and different meetings in general, starting 10 minutes past the hour, like the WSU schedule. Just to give us 10-minute break. The thing about being in Zoom is that you could jump from one to the other quickly. And so you feel like, oh, I can't be late. But, give yourself some time. I think for the most part, I think most people are pretty understanding of trying to take some time for yourself, using the restroom, grabbing some water, just maybe take a walk outside. But I think breaking from the norm. I know that now we're also seeing blue blockers, which is not a new thing, but the blue light blocker glasses is something that can help your exhaustion you feel. And so getting a pair of those, I don't have it yet, but I'm down to give it a shot. Or you can change your monitor settings so that you can limit the blue light. Trying to also be more ergonomic. Sometimes just sitting in front of the computer, I was noticing I was having a neck ache. My monitor was a little bit too high, adjust the seat. So trying to make it more comfortable so I can do that. But at the end of the day, you got to try to see about breaking up your day into getting outside, taking a walk around the house. If it's bad air quality, try to do something that, will at least be a little bit more active. And then I think that for myself, I enjoy my downtime. When I do have my downtime, it's easy to feel that stress still there because you could easily answer any messages because you're connected to your computer. I watch my Netflix. Gaming for many people. Take your downtime, but be cautious with that if that's a distraction when you need to be productive. But yeah, nothing's wrong with downtime. You should definitely take downtime. Do what you need to recharge and rejuvenate. Of course, it's easy to sit here and tell you, get more sleep. From all the research on sleep, I'll tell you what, it is the built-in mechanism to help just replenish your energy. If, as you get a good night's rest, you're going to be more active, have more energy. You're going to last longer. You're not going to kind of peter out in the afternoons. And I know, just like you mentioned, being a night owl, I love watching my shows too, but I got to have the boundaries because those shows are going to still be there unless Netflix cuts them
Right.
off too
Oh,
soon.
Too soon. Unfortunately.
So those are my 2 cents for Zoom fatigue, is that give yourself a break, literally, give yourself a break and try to break up your day. I understand that if you maybe have back-to-back classes, things like that, if you have the ability to change your schedule up, hey, mix it up, mix it up a little bit. Try to get some physical activity in your day. The Zoom fatigue can drain you. So maybe you need something to boost you in the middle of the day or something earlier in the day. Just getting out for a walk, something physical. If you're able to walk, get outside, enjoy some fresh air, something that will increase your activity.
Definitely agree with that. This whole Zoom has been really tiring on the classes in general, but like you said, really getting out and maybe taking a break and breaking up your schedule as well will really help out. I've been trying to do that. I'll update you if I'm successful or not, but for the most part, definitely taking care of your mental health is important too at this time right now. It's really easy to lose track of that, especially with all the back-to-back meetings you're mentioning and just how you feel so overwhelmed. So definitely, just everyone who's hearing this, take care of yourselves and have some downtime as well, but limit yourself and have boundaries too, so you don't get too behind on your work either.
That's a big one, mental health. I mean, I think it's affecting not just remote learning, but everything going on in our world, with COVID and just everything, social justice, racial justice, it takes a toll, and it's because we care, and trying to be able to transform that into just energy. And that's the tough part. It's easier said than done. So, but taking care of ourselves, we got to take care of ourselves and our mental health. CAPS is doing an amazing job, counseling and psychological services, to try to support students the best that they can given the restrictions. So CAPS is still out there ready for students that need support. So I give them a little plug.
Before we let you go, we wanted to ask about some resources that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Well, I would say the resource, of course, I've mentioned it before, being able to go to the dean of students office if there's anything needed, the provost office as well. We've got a lot of different offices. We're all working. We're all functioning the best that we can. I've already mentioned CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services. I encourage students especially to get tested while we have free tests going on for COVID. It's also flu season, right? So these are things that can derail further how things finish up if you were to get sick, even with a cold, but getting the flu. So do your best if you're able to try to get a flu shot. I would say that other plugs is that try to make the most of getting outside while we can. It's easy to take for granted, and then look at we had the air quality issue, right? And so that put a damper on a lot of things. So try to take advantage of getting outside as you can. I would say that try to do some different things you've never done before. Maybe it's a different different way that you walked or hiked, or visit Kamiak if you're here in Pullman. Try to find some new things. So I know it's easy to sit here and say, but I would say that this would be also a time where you might pick up something new. If you have some downtime, maybe aside from doing Netflix or maybe playing video games, maybe you want to learn something. I'm trying to pick up a little bit more on how to do some Adobe products, or I have some people that have picked up a language. They've been like, no, I'm really trying to do this daily language app on my phone. So try to pick up something new. We may be in this situation, but we can continue to learn. and try to find ways to be active in supporting each other, supporting the community, and trying to make things better around us as well. So, but it starts with ourselves, making sure we're good to go. We are here, MSS is here, our staff is here. We are passionate, we care. This is why we are in this work, is the connection. And even if it's not in person, we're still passionate about that connection, and trying to make sure that we can do our part to support students, and maybe just to catch up, be a listener. And we love having those conversations. So I guess those are my 2 cents to plug.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate you showing up for the show today and giving all that insight and wisdom. You're an awesome individual. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate y'all too, and getting this podcast going. I'm looking forward to some more stuff to connect with others, and yeah, no, I'm thankful to join y'all.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Of course. All right, y'all. Appreciate you.
So, for our main topics today, we want to have a discussion around virtual learning and Zoom fatigue. So, at the time of this recording, it's been well over a month into, for many of us, our first time doing distance learning, social distancing. And it's been pretty crazy. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely um, going into like the fifth week of the semester, I would have never thought that we would still be doing Zoom from last semester. So it's definitely taking a toll on me with how I plan my day and how I manage my time with my classes, as well as being motivated throughout the day.
No, definitely. It's been hitting hard for the most part, especially like back in March, where the whole announcement that everything's going to be transitioning to online was like so real. And then we just got like a taste of what online would be. And then finally, like going full force into it this semester or this year has been really, a challenge, I guess, from a lot of students, including myself. But it's just a challenge that's in front of us, and it's something that we can overcome. Definitely, just takes a bit more work than usual.
Yeah, no, I think back to the time in March whenever, things were kind of hitting the fan, if you will, and there's so much information, so much uncertainty going on in the news, with the university about whether or not classes will be in person again. And fast forward, can y'all really believe that it's been 6 months?
Yeah, pretty much half of 2020 is gone. I think a lot of people can attest that that's a good thing. Personally, 2020 has not been the greatest of years, but that's just my personal opinion.
Um, with everything that's been happening in the world, we've lost a lot of great people. We've had a lot of strong movements and um, just getting our voices out. And besides just COVID, I think this year has been a wild ride for a lot of us. So it kind of gets you to the point where you're like thinking, how will 2020 end? Like, how will we like turn this around, or how will it get worse? But at the end of the day, we want to try and turn 2020 around and make it a better year than what it already is.
Finger snaps to that.
Yeah, and being at home all the time and doing the social isolation, we're all doing our part. It's easy to forget that this epidemic is something that we're all experiencing, not just here in Pullman or, in the US, like across the entire world.
Yeah, a lot of people can probably relate that this virus has affected them in some shape or form. So it kind of, in a sense, this virus has brought not necessarily good things, but more of a way to stay in touch with others, especially in this time of uncertainty, and really going out of your way to check up on people, since most of us are home, or hopefully are staying safe when we are out and have nothing Dang, actually cut that out. Never mind. I'm not gonna finish what I have to say.
And so, like, honestly, looking back right now, like, that's the whole vision that we had for like this whole podcast with MSS was that we wanted to make sure that our students, our Cougs at WSU, as well as our Cougs not at WSU right now, whether you be here on campus or back home, all of us are still Cougs, and we wanted to make sure that just because you are far away or you're not on campus doesn't mean that you can't be connected with the community, and we can't be unified as a community as well. So like that's why our whole vision for this podcast came to be, and we wanted to make sure that we're keeping up the vibes, the good vibes with what's going on campus, and making sure that our students are staying safe and still having the resources that they can utilize as if we were still in person.
Definitely there's mental health resources that, especially right now in this time of, uncertainty and just kind of isolation, that you make sure that your mental health's okay. You are paying for some of the fees for caps, so definitely, use your resources, as well as there's grocery reimbursement programs that WSU is offering, along with technology and Wi-Fi resources. If you can, I would definitely look into your internet provider and your mobile plan provider to see if they're offering any programs or like deals that offer an extended period of time of free internet or like mobile services. I think I was really surprised when I found that out, that Spectrum was doing that, but I'm not sure if it's still going on or not, but that's definitely worthwhile to check. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, we just all got to do what we can do for our own parts. And so if you are on campus, I'm sure you've already heard it a million times now, but just reminding everyone that there are two major testing facilities for COVID-19, and they are both free. You do not need insurance, or you don't need to provide your insurance. And so the first one being, oh, and you have to do this by the end of September. The first one being at Cougar Health Services, in front of Cougar Health Services. And it's very simple. I just recently went. Definitely check that one out. There's also one by Beasley Coliseum. This one is being ran by the National Guard. And if you're not in Pullman, just remember, do what you can to limit your interactions with a wide variety of people. Try to keep it down to less than 10, and just make sure that you're keeping track of who you are interacting with, and always wearing a face mask like always. We just hope that everyone is staying safe and we're able to cut down on the exposure of this virus.
For our listeners out there, thank you so much for listening. If you made it to the end of the episode, we really appreciate it. You can tune in to our next episode coming in a couple weeks. We will be bringing on a mental health professional that is a Coug alum, and we'll be discussing COVID-19 and its impact on the mental health of college students. So that one is going to be a lot of great discussion. There's going to be some great resources, and we hope that it can help anyone that may be struggling with mental health, and some best practices for us during this time, because this is a new world for all of us, and we really hope that everyone out there is being safe. You can find our next episode at mss.wcu.edu, and we invite you all to let us know what you think. Give us some feedback. We want to hear from you. You can submit some questions to us through Instagram, through DM, or you can send us an email at mss.front.desk@wcu.edu. We also welcome you to suggest a topic for us to cover in the future. Last but not least, we hope that you all stay healthy. You're staying safe, following social distancing guidelines, and thanks for sticking it out with us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.